Despite persistent discrimination in how this tool has been applied in the past, residents of historic Black neighborhoods have consistently fought for formal recognition. Historic districts are now seen as an important tool to preserve Black history. However, historic overlays that carry conservative design based restrictions often decrease the affordability of housing maintenance and increase property taxes in the area.
So doing historic preservation, I think, is really important, so that when newcomers come to a community, they learn about the people who once lived there.
The historic view is not what needs to be protected, but the actual building from demolition or significant increase in density is what needs to be protected.
How do you keep people here who want to be here, who've been raised by this place and who pour into this place? And that is not always a like spatial planning conversation.
Historic preservation is economic development. It's economic development. Increases property values. That's the point. Preservation-wise, like Anacostia has been a historic district since the 90s. It was established to prevent a McDonald's from going in. So I personally would not touch historic preservation as a means by which to prevent displacement. Berry Farm is actually a really interesting example because by preserving those 3 historic units, everybody was vouchered out. That prevented the one-to-one displacement work, right? So yes, that was a community support. I would say that a lot of people lost, right? And you're not going to see, we lost right to return at that project because of that preservation. And so there's nothing in DC's historic preservation regulations that prevents displacement.
One of the forces driving recent economic development in Anacostia has been the redevelopment of the Anacostia waterfront. However, residents have voiced concern that such a large government-funded project could attract unwanted gentrification and development in Anacostia. And 2 of our guests, Valisha and Derek, pointed to Anacostia as an example of how the disproportionate impacts of climate change ultimately places the burden of adaptation on neighborhoods with significantly less financial resilience. Let's listen.
Another piece, and as the Anacostia Waterfront Initiative has been implemented, has been working on is educating people about the fact that they're in a floodplain, because a lot of people don't know. And then as floodplains are being updated, as our environment changes.
What I fear is going to happen is that the climate adaptation in terms of infrastructure will be the old urban renewal. Will be, we just need to get people out of the vulnerable floodplains near rivers, like the Anacostia River. And the climate will be used as a mechanism to drive people from place.
Considering all the tools of historic preservation, community and economic development, land use and code enforcement, and urban design, one theme that ties everything together is the idea of investment. Raymond makes a valuable point here.
You just have to continue to invest. You can't stop investing. That'll just further the problem. You have to continue to invest to make neighborhoods that people want to live in.
Urban planning tools have real-world implications for communities. The unique position of Anacostia as a symbol of historical significance and the need for equitable development in the face of racial disparities necessitates a nuanced approach to urban planning that acknowledges the impact of real-world communities while also prioritizing racial equity. Here are a few final thoughts from Derek.
Anacostia is seen as like the last community left standing that is primarily of color. And so I think there's going to be a much bigger fight to protect this space, because people for generations have been shifted and booted from other communities with redevelopment. And after Anacostia, there's really nothing left. If you get displaced from Anacostia, you're going to have to likely move outside of Washington, D.C. This community sort of symbolizes a lot of the racial harms that have happened in our country. And so the history and story and the trajectory of Berry Farm sort of mirrors the American story of enslavement and then of reconstruction, then the old urban renewal, then the new urban renewal. So I think what's important about this community is if we can get it right here, maybe it'll symbolize to other cities how to do equitable development correctly.